Imagine two coworkers. Same salary, same job title, same company, same 5% employer 401k match. Both decide on January 1st that this is the year they finally max out their retirement contributions. One of them spreads the contributions evenly across all 26 paychecks of the year. The other, motivated and disciplined, decides to front-load it, contributing aggressively in the first few months so the money starts compounding sooner. The second one, the disciplined one, the one who did the seemingly smarter thing, ends the year roughly $3,000 poorer than the first. Not because of the market, not because of fees, because of 4 missed paychecks where the company simply didn't have to pay him anything at all, and never told him that was coming. Today I'm going to show you exactly how employer 401k matching actually gets calculated paycheck by paycheck, why being financially disciplined can accidentally cost you real money, and the one document sitting in your benefits portal that tells you whether this applies to you. A document almost nobody has ever opened. Welcome to Money Autopsy. This channel exists for one reason: to translate the fine print that banks, employers, and benefits providers bury in documents nobody reads into decisions you can actually use. Today's topic is employer 401k matching, specifically the mechanical difference between an annual match and a per-paycheck match, and why that difference has quietly cost some of the most disciplined savers thousands of dollars they were fully entitled to. If you find this useful, the subscribe button is right there. I put out a new breakdown like this every week. Here's the assumption almost everyone makes about their employer match, usually without ever questioning it. They assume that as long as they contribute enough of their salary over the course of the year to hit the match percentage, the company will match the full amount, full stop. Contribute 5%, the employer matches 5%. Done. That's the mental model. And for a lot of people, it's close enough to true that it never causes a problem. It stops being true the moment 2 things happen at once. Your plan calculates the match per paycheck instead of per year, and you hit the IRS annual contribution limit before the year is actually over. Here's the mechanism. Most 401k plans match contributions using one of 2 structures. Some use a true annual match. At the end of the year, the plan looks at your total contributions and your total eligible salary and calculates the match based on the full 12 months, regardless of how your contributions were distributed across paychecks. Others, and this is more common than most employees realize, calculate the match separately on every single paycheck, completely independent of what happened on any other paycheck. Contribute 5% this pay period, get matched 5% this pay period. Contribute 0% next pay period, for any reason, and you get matched 0% that pay period. No memory, no averaging, no reconciliation, unless your plan specifically includes a feature called a true-up. Now bring in the second half of the mechanism. The IRS sets an annual dollar limit on how much you personally can contribute to a 401k each year. It's a hard cap, adjusted periodically, and it applies regardless of your salary. If you're a high earner, or simply an aggressive saver, it's entirely possible to hit that annual limit well before December. Sometimes as early as August or September, if you're contributing a large percentage of a substantial paycheck. Once you hit that limit, your contributions for the rest of the year stop automatically. Payroll systems are built to enforce this. You literally cannot contribute past the cap, even if you wanted to. Here's where the 2 mechanisms collide. If your plan matches per paycheck, and you stop contributing in September because you've hit your annual limit, your employer's payroll system sees 0 contribution on every remaining paycheck from September through December, and calculates 0 match on each of those paychecks too, because that's exactly what the per-paycheck formula is designed to do. Unless your plan has a true-up provision that catches this at year-end and pays out the difference, that matching money simply isn't paid. Not delayed. Not rolled over. Gone, the way an expired coupon is gone. Let me make this concrete with a story that plays out constantly in the comments section of channels like this one. A software engineer we'll call Priya earns $180,000 a year and decides this is the year she's finally going to max out her 401k. Motivated by a New Year's resolution and a healthy year-end bonus, she bumps her contribution percentage way up in January, aiming to hit the annual IRS limit as early in the year as possible. Reasoning, not unreasonably, that money invested sooner grows longer. By her August paycheck, she's hit the cap. Her contributions automatically stop. She doesn't think twice about it. She assumes the hard part is done, and the company has already matched everything she's owed along the way. What she doesn't know is that her employer's plan calculates the match strictly per paycheck, with no true-up provision. Her final 4 months of paychecks, September through December, show 0 employee contribution, which under her plan's formula means 0 employer match on each of those 4 paychecks. Her company offers a 50% match up to 6% of salary per paycheck. On her roughly $6,900 semi-monthly gross pay, that unmatched window across 8 pay periods works out to somewhere around $2,900 to $3,200 in employer money she never received. Money that was fully hers to claim if she'd simply paced her contributions differently. Nobody at the company did anything wrong or hid anything maliciously. The plan document technically disclosed all of this, buried in a summary plan description most employees receive once during onboarding and never open again. Priya did the financially disciplined thing, max out early, let compounding work longer. And it cost her real money precisely because discipline and the plan's mechanical structure worked against each other instead of together. Her coworker, sitting 2 desks away, earning a similar salary, contributed a flat, unchanging percentage every single paycheck all year long, reaching the annual limit right around his final paycheck in December instead of in August. Same total annual contribution as Priya, same employer, same match formula. But because his contributions were spread evenly across all 26 paychecks, every single one of them triggered a match. He walked away with the full employer contribution. She didn't. The only difference between them was pacing. You might think, okay, that's a specific edge case for high earners. How common is this really? It's more common than the finance world likes to admit, and it disproportionately hits exactly the people you'd expect to be doing everything right. High earners, aggressive savers, people who read personal finance advice telling them to max out early for more compounding time without the accompanying warning about per-paycheck match mechanics. The advice to front load isn't wrong in a vacuum. Money invested in January does have more time in the market than money invested in November. The problem is that this advice, given without checking your specific plan's matching structure first, can quietly cancel out its own benefit and then some. The deeper issue is that per-paycheck matching without a true-up isn't hidden or illegal in any way. It's a completely standard, permitted plan design that a meaningful share of employer 401k plans use. Whether any specific plan includes a true-up provision to fix exactly this scenario varies entirely by employer, and there's no reliable way to guess from the outside. The only way to know is to check your own plan's specific documents. It's worth pausing on why plans are ever designed this way in the first place, because it isn't arbitrary. From an employer's perspective, a per-paycheck match with no true-up is simpler and more predictable to budget for. The company knows exactly what its matching liability looks like every single pay period, with no year-end reconciliation, no surprise lump sum payout, and no need to track which employees front-loaded versus paced evenly. A true-up provision, by contrast, requires the plan administrator to run an extra calculation at year-end for every employee, comparing what was actually matched against what should have been matched on an annual basis, then cutting an additional contribution to cover any gap. It's more employee-friendly, but it's also more administrative overhead, which is part of why plenty of otherwise generous employer plans still don't include it. So here's the fix, and it lives in a document you almost certainly already have access to and have never opened: the Summary Plan Description, or SPD, for your 401k. Every employer offering a 401k is legally required to provide employees with an SPD, either automatically or on request, and it must describe exactly how the plan's matching formula works. Log into your benefits portal or ask HR directly for the plan's matching structure and specifically ask this question: does this plan calculate the employer match per pay period, or does it true up matching contributions at year-end based on annual totals? That single sentence, asked once, tells you everything you need to know. If your plan does include a true-up provision, you're in the clear. Front load as aggressively as you want. Hit the annual limit in March if you like, and the plan will catch up any shortfall in matching at year-end automatically. Compounding math is genuinely on your side with no downside. If your plan does not include a true-up, and you're someone likely to hit the annual contribution limit before December, the fix is arithmetic, not behavioral. Take the IRS annual limit for the year, divide it by the number of paychecks remaining, and set your contribution percentage so that your final paycheck of the year lands as close to the annual cap as possible without crossing it early. Most payroll and benefits platforms will do this calculation for you if you search for a contribution rate calculator or max out evenly tool inside the portal. If yours doesn't, the math is simple. Annual limit divided by total paychecks in the year gives you your target dollar amount per paycheck. Then convert that to a percentage of your typical gross pay. Walk through a simplified version of that math to make it concrete. Say the annual limit for the year is $23,000, and you're paid twice a month for 24 paychecks total. Divide $23,000 by 24, and you get roughly $958 per paycheck as your target contribution. If your gross pay is $7,000 per paycheck, $958 works out to about 13.7%. That's the flat contribution percentage that spreads your full annual contribution evenly, hitting the cap right around your final paycheck instead of months early. Most benefits portals let you set a specific dollar amount per paycheck instead of a percentage if you'd rather skip the percentage conversion entirely and just enter the number directly. One caveat worth being direct about, if you're not currently on pace to hit the annual limit at all, meaning most people, since the cap is set well above what a typical contribution percentage generates for most salaries, none of this front-loading mechanic applies to you, and you can stop worrying about pacing entirely. This specific trap is almost exclusively relevant to higher earners or aggressive savers, contributing a large enough percentage that hitting the annual cap early is realistically possible. There's a wrinkle worth mentioning specifically for anyone age 50 or older. The IRS allows an additional catch-up contribution on top of the standard annual limit, meant to help people closer to retirement save more in their final working years. This catch-up amount is calculated and capped separately from the standard limit, which means the math for exactly when you'll hit your personal ceiling shifts if you're eligible for it. And some plans handle catch-up contributions with their own separate matching rules, sometimes matched at the standard percentage, sometimes excluded from matching entirely. If you're eligible for catch-up contributions, this is a second specific question worth asking your plan administrator directly, since the standard limit math in this video doesn't automatically apply the same way once catch-up contributions are part of the picture. There's a second related trap worth a direct warning, and it involves vesting rather than matching. Even when an employer match is calculated and paid correctly, that money isn't necessarily yours to keep immediately. Many plans impose a vesting schedule on employer contributions specifically. Your own contributions are always 100% yours from the moment they're deducted, but the employer's matching money can vest gradually over several years of service, or all at once after a specific tenure milestone known as a cliff. Leave the company before you're fully vested, and the unvested portion of the employer match is forfeited back to the plan, regardless of how carefully you paced your contributions to capture it in the first place. If you're considering a job change, checking your vesting schedule before you give notice is a 5-minute look that can be worth thousands of dollars in employer contributions you'd otherwise walk away from. A third mechanic worth knowing, separate from matching and vesting, but often discovered around the same time people start actually reading their plan documents: automatic enrollment and auto-escalation defaults. Many employers now enroll new hires automatically at a default contribution percentage, often somewhere in the 3 to 6% range, unless the employee actively opts out or changes it. Some plans pair this with auto-escalation, quietly increasing your contribution percentage by a percentage point or two every year, on the theory that gradual increases are easier to accept than one large jump. Neither of these is a bad feature on its own. For a lot of people, the default nudges them into saving more than they would have chosen on their own. But relying entirely on the default means you may be contributing less than the full amount needed to capture your maximum match, or investing your contributions in a generic target date fund that doesn't reflect your actual risk tolerance or timeline, simply because you never logged in to check what the default settings actually were. A few quick answers to the questions that come up constantly around this topic. Does the employer match count toward my personal IRS contribution limit? No. The annual limit that caps how much you personally can contribute from your paycheck is separate from a higher combined limit that includes employer contributions. Employer matching dollars don't reduce how much you're allowed to contribute yourself. They're tracked against a different higher combined ceiling. If I'm not close to the contribution limit, should I still care about any of this? Generally, no. The per-paycheck versus true-up distinction only matters practically if you're pacing your contributions unevenly enough to hit the annual cap before your last paycheck of the year. If you're contributing a steady percentage all year and never come close to the limit, every paycheck naturally gets matched the same way, regardless of which formula your plan uses. Can I ask my employer to add a true-up provision if my plan doesn't have one? You can ask, and some employers have made this change when enough employees raised it, since it's generally viewed as an employee-favorable and relatively low-cost plan design change. It's not guaranteed, but raising it with HR or a benefits committee costs you nothing to try. Is front-loading contributions ever still worth it, even without a true-up? Sometimes, depending on the size of your projected market gains from extra months of compounding versus the size of the specific match dollars you'd forfeit. For most people, the guaranteed immediate return of an employer match, often effectively a 50% or 100% instant return on the contributed dollar, outweighs the marginal benefit of a few extra months of market exposure. But the exact math depends on your specific match percentage and how early you'd otherwise front load. One more structural detail worth knowing about, since it's shifted in recent years. Under provisions from the Secure 2.0 Act, some employer plans now allow matching contributions to be made as Roth contributions rather than pre-tax at the employee's election, which changes the tax treatment of that matched money going forward. Whether your specific plan offers this option is, once again, a question for your SPD or your plan administrator, rather than something to assume either way. What happens to my contributions if I change jobs mid-year before hitting the annual limit? Your contributions from your old employer's plan don't transfer automatically to a new employer's plan, but the IRS annual limit follows you as an individual across all employers combined in a calendar year, not per employer. If you're changing jobs mid-year, it's worth telling your new employer's payroll or benefits team what you've already contributed so far in the year, since some payroll systems won't automatically know and could otherwise let you over-contribute past the individual limit across both jobs combined. Should I contribute more than my employer's match, or stop once I hit it? That depends entirely on your broader financial picture. Other debt, emergency savings, other investment accounts, and your specific goals, which is beyond the scope of this specific video. But as a general starting point, independent of those factors, most people are well served by contributing at least enough to capture the entire employer match before directing additional savings elsewhere, since it's typically the highest guaranteed return available in a standard retirement account. I've heard of something called a mega backdoor Roth. Does that connect to any of this? Loosely, yes, though it's a more advanced strategy specific to certain plan designs. Some employer plans allow after-tax contributions beyond the standard employee deferral limit up to a separate higher combined limit that includes employer contributions, employee contributions, and after-tax contributions together. Plans that allow this, combined with in-plan Roth conversion features, enable some employees to shelter significantly more than the standard annual limit. Whether your plan supports this is, like everything else in this video, a specific question for your SPD, rather than something to assume. Most plans don't offer it, but it's worth knowing the phrase exists if you're already maxing out the standard limit and looking for additional tax-advantaged room. 6 things to take away. 1. Your employer's 401k match may be calculated per paycheck rather than annually, meaning contributing 0 on any given paycheck, including because you've hit the annual IRS limit, can mean 0 match on that paycheck specifically. 2. Check your summary plan description or ask HR directly whether your plan includes a true-up provision that reconciles matching at year-end. This single fact determines whether front-loading contributions is completely safe or potentially costly. 3. If your plan has no true-up and you're likely to hit the annual contribution limit before your last paycheck, divide the annual limit by your total remaining paychecks to set a contribution percentage that reaches the cap right at year-end instead of early. 4. Separately from matching mechanics, check your plan's vesting schedule before any job change. Unvested employer contributions are forfeited if you leave too early, regardless of how the match itself was calculated. 5. If none of this applies to you, you're not close to the annual limit, you don't need to change anything about how you're currently contributing. 6. Don't assume your automatic enrollment or auto-escalation default is optimized for you. Log in and confirm your actual contribution percentage and fund selection, rather than trusting whatever was preset when you were hired. Here's the exercise. Log into your 401k benefits portal today, find the summary plan description, and search it for the words true up or true up. If you find it, you're protected regardless of how you pace contributions. If you don't find it, or you're not sure, ask HR or your plan administrator the direct question this video gave you. It takes one email and protects potentially thousands of dollars in matching money that's already yours to claim. While you're in that portal, take 2 more minutes to check 3 things at once, since you'll already be logged in. Your current contribution percentage against the match threshold, whether you're on pace to hit the annual limit before your last paycheck if you're a high earner, and your vesting schedule if you've been at the company less than a few years. None of these checks require a phone call or a meeting. They're sitting in the same portal, usually under a tab labeled Plan Documents or Contribution Details, and together they take less time than the video you just watched. If this saved you money you didn't know you were about to leave on the table, the subscribe button does more for this channel than any single view. I break down one piece of the system like this every week: how the number gets calculated, why it moves the way it does, and what you're actually supposed to do about it. That's it for this one. This has been Money Autopsy. I'll see you in the next breakdown.